Welcome back for episode 2 of Worship Mechanics. I hope that first episode helped you out a little bit as we're getting started on the acoustic guitar. Last week I wanted to get one done and sent out there to you, but I had sermon prep and just some time set aside just to kind of seek God and get ready for Sunday. So I didn't have time to do this, but I'm going to try to catch up. Here it's Tuesday, try to get this done, get this out, and then maybe get another one done this week and get us back on track. Just as a recap on week 1, remember holding the pick like a dart. That's kind of how you hold it. You're holding on to a lot of the pick with the, let's zoom in here, with the neck of the guitar, thumb in the back, fingertips. That's the proper left-hand position. Okay? And we just talked about just getting used to playing a note. How to basically, what you would say, fret a note. You know, it says in the Bible, do not fret, it only causes harm. Here's your one exception to that. You can fret here. You can fret notes and chords. Ha. That's all the bad jokes for today. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is moving forward in playing the acoustic guitar, using it to lead worship. We're going to start off with the idea of how to tune the guitar. Now, I'm going to try to, once I start putting this video together and editing it, I'm going to try to get some resources put up on the screen that you can see to make this a little easier to understand. But first of all, you've got to learn how to tune the guitar to itself. Now, let me explain something. If you want to be able to play with other people, you have to all be tuned together to the same pitch. So when someone plays an A on their piano and you play an A on the guitar, it's the same note and you're in tune with each other. Otherwise, it sounds kind of crazy and horrible. But if you're just sitting around playing at home and you don't have anybody else you're playing with and you don't have any way to tune your instrument, you can at least get these strings in tune with each other. And the way you do that is pretty simple. You're going to start off with your low E string. Okay? And by the way, I can't remember if I covered this in episode 1 or not, but the names of these strings, starting with the big one up on top here, is E, A, D, G, B, and E. We can refer to them as those letter names, or we can refer to them as numbers. And the biggest one is 6, and then you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Easy way to remember that is the smallest string is also the smallest number. So strings 1 through 6, or you've got E, A, D, G, B, and E. Okay? But like I'm saying, with tuning, if you start with the low E string, and let's zoom in here just a little bit, kind of look at this. If you start with the low E string and you come up to the 5th fret, now again, this is assuming that this low E string is at least close. It's not real out of tune. You know, if someone came along and did this, and it's like, oh, that's really low, then you would need to at least get this close somehow. So this is kind of making the assumption that this string is close to in tune. There are other ways to tune that we can go over later, but I'm going to show you the first way. Okay, so let's assume that this is in tune. Now I'm going to grab one of these strings here and detune it just so that we can see how to deal with a string that's out of tune. So we're starting with this low E string, and we're saying, okay, it's either in tune or it's really close. So we're going to use that as our standard to tune all the other strings. So what you do is you come up here to the 5th fret, and remember, thumb in the back, fingertip, and you're going to play that 5th fret. just like that. Now, to tune the next string, which would be the 5th string, you're going to play that string open. Now, when I say play open, what that means is you're just playing the string and you're not pressing down on any frets, okay? So, I'm not saying 2nd fret of the A string or the 5th string. I'm just saying open. Now, if these two strings, that low E 6th string and the next one, the A string, if these two strings are in tune with each other, when you play that 5th fret on the E and you play that A string, which is the 5th string, open, it should be the exact same note. If you have to adjust that A string, either tightening it or loosening it, if you tighten the string, that's called raising it or making it sharp. And if you loosen it, that's lowering the note or making it flat. If you have to do that, then go ahead and adjust it so that they sound exactly the same. Once you've got that A string the way it needs to be, you just repeat the process. So come up to the 5th fret of the A string. Now let me zoom in just a little bit tighter here. So the 5th fret of the A string. Okay, now the next string, you're going to do the same thing in the process. You're going to go to that next string, which is the 4th string or the D string, and you're going to play that one. Now that's the one I detuned so that it's out of tune. So you're going to play 5th fret on the A, then the next string open, and it's not the same note. Can you hear that? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, using that 5th fret on the A string or the 5th string, I'm going to tune that D string or the 4th string until it sounds about the same. Getting close. Okay, that sounds right. Or we're very close. So that's in tune. We're going to do it again. So now we're at the 4th string. We're jumping up to the 5th fret. And we're playing the next string, which is the G, or the 3rd. You see how we're working through this? Now that's a little flat. I didn't even plan on that one being out of tune. Okay, now that one's right. Now we're going to move on again. Now, pay attention right here. This, I'll get down into the picture here. This is the only one that is different. So on that G string, you're going to go up to the 4th fret, not the 5th fret. You're going to play the 4th fret there on that 3rd string, and then go to the next one, which is the 2nd string. And they need to be the same. If you jump up to the 5th fret on the 3rd string, or the G, and then you try to tune that following string, which is the B, or the 2nd string, to that note, you're going to get your guitar all out of tune. So remember, on the 3rd string, you're going to go to the 4th fret. I know it may sound confusing, but that's the only spot in the whole process where it deviates and does something different. So, G, you're going to go to the 4th fret, play that note, and then play the next string, which is the B. Get them the same. Sounds good. Now, for these last two strings, the two littlest strings, you're going to go back to your 5th fret. Same thing you've been doing. All the way up to the 5th fret, and then play that last little string, the open E. And if that's in tune, then your whole guitar, keep your fingers crossed, aha, should sound in tune, just like that. Now, notice the names of the strings, E, A, D, G, B, and E. Notice that those two top string, or the top string and the bottom string, the big one and the littlest one, are the same note. They're both E. And if you play them, you'll hear that it is actually the same note. It's just, this is a lower note, and then that's a higher note. So those are in what's called different octaves, okay? So this is a low E and a high E, but it's the same note. And if I play the same fret on those two strings, second fret, third fret, fifth, seventh, you'll hear it's the same note every time. So that's just kind of something interesting that's going to come into play a little bit later. So that's how you tune your guitar. Now, of course, some of your guitars have tuners built in. You may go out and buy a tuner, something that helps you get it in tune, and that's great. But you need to know how to tune the guitar to itself, because you're not always going to have that electronic assistance. Okay, that's how you tune the guitar. All right, moving on. I'm going to teach you your first chord today, okay? This is the first chord, and this is the first time when I teach someone their first chord, I always go to this one. In some ways it's the easiest chord to play, but it's one you're going to use a lot. And it's the chord of E minor, okay? Now some chords are minor chords and some chords are major chords. When we get into the music theory part of worship mechanics, we'll talk about the difference of minor and major chords. But for now, just use it as part of its name so that you can identify what the chord is. You don't need to understand why it's a minor chord at this point. So in E minor, you're going to use, for the purposes of, there's different ways you could play it, but for the way I'm going to teach it to you today, you're going to use your index finger or the 1 finger, and your middle finger, which is the 2 finger. Now, in guitar, don't get overwhelmed by all the numbers. I know it can seem confusing because, you know, you've got fingers 1 through 4, you've got strings 1 through 6, you've got frets 1 through 12, basically. And so if I'm saying use finger number 2 on fret number 3 on string number 5, I understand that it can kind of get daunting to process all this information. But just take it slow and easy, and it will all make sense. It'll all just be like falling off a log before you know it. So this chord, this E minor chord, is one of the easier ones to play. And so what you're going to do, let me zoom in here, is you're going to use the 1 finger or the index, the 2 finger or the middle. And those are the only 2 you're going to use. So here we go. The index finger is going to go to the 2nd fret of the 5th string, or the A string. Let's see how tight in I can zoom here. All right. So the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Okay? Right there. Now, your middle finger is going to go to the 2nd fret right next door on the 4th string. So they're going to be together like that. Going to be kind of like that, these 2 fingers. Okay? So then they're going to be right there. Let me come in even closer. On those 2 strings and that 1 fret. Okay? Now, when you have those 2 fingers there, you don't want them to be touching any other string but the 2 that they're supposed to be on. Okay, so you don't want your hand kind of laying across the strings, touching the other strings like that. You want them up and over. Remember, thumb in the back, just fingertips. And then when you do that, let's zoom out here. You're going to strum all 6 strings. That's your E minor chord. It's kind of your cowboy song chord. Or whatever song that uses E minor, right? And it's an easy chord to play. Like I said, I'm going to get something on your screen that will show also how to play this, just kind of a standard illustration. We need to start getting used to reading those illustrations anyways. That's the E minor chord. Now you're going to practice just that 1 chord for this week. We will eventually add some other chords to the mix, but for now, just learn to play E minor. Learn what it looks like. Let's see here. Where your thumb needs to be, how your fingers need to be situated, and get comfortable just playing that one chord. All right? That's E minor. You can kind of check to make sure you're doing it right by playing each string individually. If your fingers are kind of laying across the guitar like I was saying, you'll get this kind of thing. So you got to pick up your hand, fingertips only, and then you'll get a nice clear chord. That's E minor. So you're going to practice that one, and then we'll add more next time. Now, I got two more quick little things that I'm going to talk about. All right. First of all, I want to talk about what's called alternate picking. Now, this has a lot to do with playing single notes, but it also is going to help you when you put this technique together with playing chords and kind of playing rhythm and strumming and leading worship. Alternate picking is the idea of when you play a string, you can play down like this. Zoom back in again. So you can play it down, and you can also play up. So it's called a downstroke or an upstroke. I'm noticing that the camera is kind of going crazy with the lights here on the stage at the church. I'm seeing it's trying to change colors on us a lot, so I'll probably not do any more videos from here, but don't let that distract you any more than what I just did. Down, up. Alternate picking is when you alternate between down and up. Okay? There's a couple reasons to use alternate picking. One is if for some reason you need to play real fast, you're not going to be able to do that by just playing downstrokes. If you want to play real fast, you've got to go down and up. Okay? So that's one reason, but alternate picking also is a technique that you will put to use when you're just playing regular songs. I'm doing a lot of down and up playing in there. And when you begin to strum, of course, you'll be strumming down and up. You don't just go. You're going to play down and up. So alternate picking is something that you can practice on a single note, and then we can talk about how it works in strumming. But for now, I want you to just practice with a string, probably this low E string. Just practice playing down, up, down, up, down, up. And you want to get comfortable playing both directions. A lot of people start off by just playing down, and then they lean heavily on just playing downstrokes. Partly if you go out and take guitar lessons and they teach you how to play little songs like that in Mel Bay Book 1 or whatever, they're all downstrokes, and so they kind of set you up to always play downstrokes, and then you got to introduce this idea of playing upstrokes later on. So let's go ahead and start off right at the beginning with you playing down and up. Economy of motion is always a good thing to think about with guitar. Okay, so when I'm going down and up, I'm not going like that. I'm doing small movements. Just keeping it close to the string, not doing a lot of crazy moving all around like that. Okay? So that's alternate picking. You're going to want to add that to your little practice routine, you know, because you're also playing that one note, right? Wherever that's at, you can practice alternate picking on that. And then you can practice moving notes around a little bit. And that brings us to the last thing we're going to look at today, which is where you're actually going to be doing that. So Once you've gotten comfortable with alternate picking, once you've gotten comfortable with playing a note, a fretted note, then we're going to go ahead and introduce a picking exercise, okay? So after a couple days of practicing alternate picking and just getting comfortable with how that feels, let's introduce this idea of a picking exercise. Here's what it is. And if I can figure out a way to get an illustration on the screen for you for this too, I'll do it. But basically, you're going to just start at the first fret in the low E string, the big fat string up here at the top. You're going to start on the first fret with your first finger, play that note. Then the second fret with your second finger, play that note. Third fret with your third finger, play that note. Fourth fret with your fourth finger, play that note. So you've basically gone 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? When you've done that, take the whole thing and move it to the next string. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you've done that, you got it. Take it to the next string. And then the next, and the next, and the next, and then you're done. Now, if you want to really go to the next level and be that person who reaches for the extra, to achieve, you're that high achiever kind of person, then you can reverse the whole thing and go backwards. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here's my tip about doing this picking exercise. It's actually more than a tip. You have to do it this way if you're going to get anything out of this. You're going to use alternate picking on this exercise. So what does that mean? That means you're going on your right hand over here, you're going down, up, down, up. Move it to the next string, down, up, keep it going. And then backwards. Okay, so here's the rule of thumb about exercises. Okay, first of all, an exercise on an instrument is no different than an exercise in a gym or on a field. Because what you're doing is you're training and conditioning your physical body. And what you're doing in a musical exercise is you're training and conditioning your physical body. Very little of your mind is being used in this. This isn't creating music. This is training your fingers and building up muscles in your fingers. And remember, we talked in the first episode about muscle movements and remembering muscle memory and things like that, like typing. That's what this is all. That's what this will create. And you may not ever want to do anything but sit around in your living room and strum chords. This is still going to help you tremendously. Even if you don't ever want to play a single note, it's going to help you in everything that you need to be able to play the guitar. So, just like any kind of exercise, practice. Regular, consistent practice.